Okay, welcome to the latest Democracy 4 developer blog video. I'm Clef. I am the programmer, designer, blah 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 of the game, and I'm going to talk about what we have changed in the last 2 weeks. 'Cause I do these videos every 2 weeks, and quite a lot has changed actually. Quite a lot has gone in. We've only just recently updated the game, so we changed these things you can vote on up here. At the moment, Italy is winning. So if you look at this and you sort of think, no, I would rather have these other things, then you need to vote, because currently Italy is winning massively. Then better late game balance. I can't remember the order of the other things. So loads of stuff has happened. I'm going to pick a country close to my heart where I live. I'm going to pick the UK. Oh, we have this thing now that actually disappears if it's not relevant. It's a minor thing. And starting debt makes more sense, and all of these have tooltips. I broke them in the last version of the game. Anyway, they're back. So let's play the UK, or let's look at the UK. I'm not going to play the whole thing. And talk about a few things. So, nuclear weapons. The UK has nukes, rather famously. Lots of debate over whether or not they are truly an independent deterrent or not. Insert sort of witty comments from Yes Minister here. Anyway, nuclear weapons are now a thing in the game. So obviously some countries have them, some countries don't. And you can scrap them, or you can invest in them. It's very hard to say kind of like what the effects are. Patriots tend to like them. Scrapping nuclear weapons, if you've got them, I think would go down very badly with Patriots. I think generally speaking it's a liberal point of view not to have them, in that they're like weapons of mass destruction and like inhumane, I guess. Definitely a boost to being a strong leader. I think that is the perception for like people like Putin and what have you. Can you imagine, for example, if Donald Trump had scrapped US nuclear weapons, how that would be perceived? So I think it is an input to that, and it does boost technology, because there are, you have to do a lot of research to have nukes, and therefore that feeds through into other technology. I think that's fair enough. I looked up how much the nuclear deterrent costs for the UK. It's actually not a lot. I mean, it is a lot. It's just like 8 billion a year or whatever. But as a percentage of the total military, it's not that high. And we have like some arbitrary things that you can like downgrade to. And we've even got like a really high one of orbital bombers, which nobody has. So if you really want to spend even more money on nuclear weapons, you can. I think it was something that was conspicuously absent from the game, because it is a big political thing. It was when I was a kid, was when we first started having nuclear weapons from the United States on British soil, and that was very contentious. That was quite a big deal. So it's not so much of a thing now, but again, it's something you could scrap and save money. So it's in there. That's a new thing that's in there. Something else that's in there is the royal family, the monarchy. This is a specific situation for the British monarchy. I know other countries have monarchies, but the British monarchy is different in that we make a big deal out of it. Now, I'm a Republican in these terms, not in American terms, but in these terms. So, like, I'm very anti the monarchy. But, there are arguments that it is a positive thing economically, and boosts tourism. It definitely does. There's a lot of like pageantry around the monarchy in the UK. Changing the guard at Buckingham Palace and trooping the colour and palaces and all that kind of stuff that attracts tourism, especially from the US. I think it's hard to deny that it has a boost effect on tourism. I looked up how much it costs. So it's costing roughly like £24 million a quarter. I thought it would be more actually. It's actually, I mean, that's nothing. what's interesting is we used to call it the civil list, and then there was this big deal that the civil list has been scrapped, but basically they just renamed it to something else, and it's kind of like calculated in a different way, but it still costs money anyway, but not very much. I would argue that it boosts stability as well. We've had the same head of state my entire life, which is kind of like a stabilizing factor, I think. I think it is quite good in terms of there's someone who has spoken with a full security clearance and knowledge of like global politics to every single prime minister in my lifetime, and it's the same person. And yeah, I mean, like there is a certain sense of stability there. I think that's justified. It does boost foreign relations. One of the benefits of the British monarchy, I don't consider there to be many, but one of them is that we have a head of state who's not political, which is ridiculous. But what that means is if like a foreign leader wants to come visit, they can basically meet the Queen and have a big banquet with the Queen, and they can chat about horse racing or whatever, and there's no chance for any major political gaffes or kind of it becomes unpolitical in a way that prevents conflict. And also it means that the Prime Minister, who's actually governing the country, can get on with governing the country whilst the Queen goes and shakes everyone's hands and says, what is it exactly that you do here? And the Queen does that a lot. Funnily enough, my wife's met the Queen in one of those, what is it that you do here senses. I never have. I've been very close to Prince Andrew. Andrew? I think so. Just physically at one point. I don't know him. Anyway, whatever. So I've given it a negative for democracy, and I think that is the case because it's not just the Queen, but it's the fact that it's lumped in with this whole system involving like the House of Lords. Now I have to be careful here and shut up, because the problem is I could speak at great length about the House of Lords, but here's Cliff's 2-minute summary. Okay, of the House of Lords. If you're American, you've never heard of this. So in America, you have the Senate and the House, and they're both elected, and they're elected at different times in, it's like a different way, a different system of representation, all the rest of it. And you might think that that's unfair because every state has two senators, regardless of their size. You know nothing, because our second house, we have the House of Commons, the common people who are elected. Then we have the House of Lords. House of Lords are not elected. They're appointed. They're given the job, sometimes for life, and sometimes on a hereditary basis. So basically, because your great-great-great-great-grandfather conquered some foreign country for the king, you get to sit in the House of Lords, and they vote on legislation. All the bishops get put in the House of Lords, and all ex-prime ministers, ex-speakers of the House of Commons. Well, does that even make sense? And also people who just donate a lot of money to a political party, and it's not even that much. If you donate 5 million, and that's not a lot to a successful business person, to a political party, get a seat in the House of Lords. And then what's even weirder is you can be appointed as a minister of the Crown, meaning a minister, from the House of Lords, having never been elected. So we can have, for example, a Chancellor from the House of Lords. We don't, but we could. Who's never been elected by anyone. Not only that, you can go to prison for fraud or anything, theoretically, for murder. Serve your time and then come back into the House of Lords and continue voting, because there's no way to get rid of you. Anyway, all of that kind of flows from the monarchy and the establishment bullshit. That'll probably get the video flagged now. Anyway, that's not democratic. I could do hours of video about all this stuff. We have all this weirdness in the UK. The House of Commons can't refer to the House of Lords. They say the other place. You also can't refer to another person in the House of Commons. So if Dave says something in the House of Commons, you can't say Dave, whatever. You have to say the right honourable member for such and such, which doesn't make any sense. Not only that, you can't call someone a liar in the House of Commons, but no matter what you can say, you can't be done for libel for what you say in the House of Commons, I think. It's gibberish. Anyway, whatever. It's not democratic, so democracy down bad. Also equality, because frankly it entrenches a sense of hereditary title and entitlement that I think is kind of fundamentally unequal. We don't have the king based on their merits and what they've contributed to society. It's just next in line to the throne. Anyway, that's my take on how the monarchy is represented in Democracy 4 in the UK. It's different in other countries. And I'm sure the comments will be full of people saying, oh, you're a subject, you're not a citizen. And the Queen gets to veto all legislation. Technically she does, in practice she doesn't. If she did, the monarchy would collapse within minutes. Anyway, it's a topic I'm really invested in because I know a lot about it and I live here. And anyway, it had to go in, right? We had to put the monarchy in because it is an important thing. Situations in the game are always red, always green, positive or negative. Now, the monarchy I put in green as being a positive thing. Really, I think it should be kind of like grey, but I didn't want to complicate the user interface anymore. I think putting it in red would seem to be too political, and the game should not reflect my own politics. And actually, it should be pointed out that the monarchy is very popular. If you do polls in the UK, tends to be older people who are most supportive of the monarchy. There was a little bit of banter on Twitter when I said I was putting this in about whether or not it should boost racism. Because current events, dear boy, let's not even go there. Let's not even discuss it. But anyway, the monarchy's in the game. Other stuff has gone in as well. Let me go to another country. Let me go to a country very pointedly. I'm going to go France. Land of baguettes and croissants. So here we are in France. France has a lot of problems in the game at the moment. This is quite shocking. But France has something that the UK doesn't have anymore. Yes, it also has nukes, but it pays money into the EU because the UK has left, for better or worse. Take your pick. So the EU is now in the game. The EU is in the game in a purely financial sense. Well, kind of purely financial. So we have a few countries that are in the EU and a few countries that aren't. We have two countries, France and Germany, who contribute financially, make a net financial contribution to the EU, and one, Spain, that gets a very small subsidy. So it's up there, and it's red. No, that's not my politics. It's red because this is an EU contribution, financial contribution. For Spain, the EU subsidy is green because it is obviously a positive thing because Spain does well out of it from a financial point of view. You can't edit this in the game at the moment. I know loads of people would like to be able to edit it. It's a whole world of pain and complexity. But I thought regardless of that, we should put it in anyway. Because actually the French and German contribution to the EU financially is pretty big. It's noticeable. 2.31 billion euros per quarter here. If we look at expenditure, it's there. It's above agriculture subsidies, which is kind of like, I know. It's above the state telecoms company. It's above nuclear weapons. We've made France a bit poorer, effectively, in this thing because we've taken this and nukes into account. I've reduced the cost of the military for people who have nukes so that the net amount is correct. So don't worry about that. I did think of that. But it is a sizable payment, right? It's a fifth of the debt interest. Debt interest is terrifying. So anyway, yeah. So we have this. I've decided that it makes patriots unhappy. Currently reducing their membership. I don't know if that's maybe the wrong way. Yeah, it probably is because like you're contributing. So like, how can you be patriotic? How can you be nationalistic? When we say patriotic, we're talking nationalistic. So the fact that you're making a net contribution to other countries probably makes you less nationalistic and more European, I would have thought. Big boost to international trade. obviously. Now, it is mitigated slightly. So we have this fixed thing, the EU. This is the French membership of the EU is set to a certain level so that the costs are a certain level, okay? But it is slightly adjusted by foreign relations. The idea for that is you get a better deal from the EU if you have good foreign relations, because it's a matter of negotiation. Margaret Thatcher famously yelled a lot about how much the UK used to pay. It's a matter of negotiation. How much should the French contribute to the EU? How much should the Germans? How much should the British have contributed? It's a matter of opinion, and it's a matter of politics and diplomacy, right? So foreign relations do play into that. So if you get better foreign relations, you're paying less. But it's a matter of opinion. Anyway, so that's in. So that's another big thing that's in. We have other things that have gone in the last 2 weeks that are trying to achieve one goal, and the goal is to make the countries feel more like the countries and to feel different. So a few things, I won't go and find them all because it just involves loading and saving loads of stuff. If you play as the US now, it's slightly more racist, and it's slightly more racist because I put in a modifier for the US where there is more racial tension, and I think that is fair. And I did a lot of thinking about it, and the US had slavery in a way that European countries didn't, even though the slave trade went through Britain. Not in the same way that it affected America. So there is a historical kind of embodied racism that we still have the hangover from now, I think, in the US, which is why there is a bigger race relations problem in the US than there is in some European countries. I think that's fair to say. So there is a US specific historical slavery modifier for racial tension in the US, which helps to explain things, because the thing is, the game works purely on the basis of statistics and policies. So it has a global model. So when there is a cultural thing or a historical or geographic reason for something, we have to put in a modifier, and you will see it in the US if you go into racial tension. That's in. There's a new dilemma that shows up in Australia to do with whether or not you will allow mining on Aboriginal land, which is a thing, is a big controversial thing. So that's a new thing that's in. Another modifier that we have for the US is to do with guns. So some of the effects of guns have changed in that people are less angry about gun ownership in the US than they are for exactly the same policies in the UK or France or Germany, or anywhere else actually. And I think that is fair, and looking into it, we kind of put in a cultural modifier for the US for them to override those effects and be more tolerant of guns. And I think that is because of the frontier history of the US. So we never had that. In the UK, the whole country was explored, before guns. In the US, you had the Wild West, you had frontier spirit, you had, the marshals are not going to come and defend my land because it's so far away from everywhere. I need a gun. We've never had that in the UK, which is why people in the US are sometimes confused that we're not angry that we're not allowed to have guns. It's we've never had guns. It's not part of our culture at all. Ironically, the guy who lives opposite me has got a gun. He's like a farmer. They have shotguns. And also, ironically, I often hear machine guns in my house. Well, not in my house. I can hear them because I live near a military training area. Also howitzers and all sorts of hardware, tanks and everything. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with it. So that's a modifier that is kind of makes it easier to be tolerant of looser handgun laws in the US. Okay, so we've done a lot in the last 2 weeks, frankly. I don't have Polish and Russian yet, but they're being done. I was very amused to get questions from the translator about some of the little jokes and sarcastic bits, saying, "Why is this funny?" And it's tough crowd. Anyway, so yeah, Polish and Russian should. I should have it very soon, but it will lag slightly behind because of all this new stuff that's gone in. So like EU contribution, I don't have like a Russian and Polish translation for that yet, and stuff like that. So there'll be a bit of lag, but we'll catch up. And then they should be going in soon. I've got a lot of little fixes to do, a lot of little tweaks. I've got some really good feedback on my forums at positech.co.uk. So we're going to be putting all of that stuff in the next week. I need to do a lot more balancing of stuff. And at some point, yeah, we will start working on Italy, which is the country that you can't play yet. Like we may put in other countries. I mean, it's just that like it sat there going, we're going to do Italy at some point. That doesn't mean we won't maybe add some more. And of course, modding can add loads, and I'd like to work on mod support a lot as well. Anyway, so that's what we've been doing in the last 2 weeks. It's a lot, actually, and the game needs to settle down. We need to play it a lot, collect some stats, and collect some feedback. Anyway, funnily enough, if you're watching this right now, the game is on sale 30% off on Steam, which is the cheapest it's been since we released it. So there you go, still in early access, obviously. So thank you for watching this. If you like the game, please leave us a review on Steam saying how wonderful it is, because it's really very helpful, because people tend to forget. If you like a game, you tend not to bother. Certainly if you hate a game, you tend to review it, so reviews get a bit skewed. So it's really nice, and it just makes me feel good to know that people enjoy the game. Anyway, thank you for watching all this and listening to me rant about the royal family. I like the crown. Anyway, I'll do another video in 2 weeks. Please like and subscribe and stuff like that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.